Hello everybody, this is Lila in Hawaii, and I've been working a little bit today on some of my painted cottages. I think in one of the previous videos I showed you where I had painted a background of a couple of them, and tell you the truth, I can't remember which ones they were. I have a feeling this might have... was this one? This could have been one, and I don't think that was one. I just pulled out a few that... I think this was the main one, if I remember correctly. You know, they all have a sort of a similarity about them. Anyhow, I'll just show you this one. So this one I painted the background with some watercolor paint, and this is where I'm up to at this point. After I painted it, first of all I painted the cottage, as you know, with acrylic paint. So that way, when it was dry and ironed, it didn't it didn't blend into the rest of the stuff. So when I put the water on here, including some rain, mind you, out on my lanai it was raining, when it got wet around here, it didn't bleed, so that was great. So then, I need to start working on appliquing a garden. So this is where I'm up to on this one. I decided to keep this one sort of more pastel, and at this point I've put on some trim here. This is all hand sewn on. I'll show you on the back. That's how it looks on the back. So that's what I've done there now. These were the dyed pieces of lace that I showed you, I think I did, and this as well. I think I showed you the pinks and the greens. There's the pink. So I appliqued those on, and then after they were on, I added something on top of them to give them a little more dimension and depth. And this is some trim that I have here that I'm going to add a little bit more of. I usually cut them into little pieces and applique them on. And so that's probably what I would call the main piece. I did paint the sky. I added some, even though it was blue, I added a little bit of yellow and some pinky color to the sky, apricot-y color. And I've put on a couple of pieces of cut out, fussy cut pieces that I haven't finished yet. Like, for example, this leaf is a fussy cut leaf, which I'll put on, and I also put on somewhere here is a fussy cut piece, and you can see I've sort of started tacking that on. Then after all this is done, of course, I'll be adding a lot more dimension with, probably a lot more of these French knots. I'm going to try and put some drizzle knots on there, and then of course I'll put some beads. I don't plan to put any buttons on this particular one. Let's see, I applique a flower on there, and when I applique them on, I scrunch them up and just sort of sew them on so that they're kind of a little bit dimensional. And there's the footpath that I did before, so I'll put that aside. And then the other one, let me see. I think this was the other one that I was working on. So this one's a little bit of a different colorway. This one's a little more, you might say, fallish, and I added some blue to it, which I normally don't add. And if you can see here, a fussy cut little bird here, and I've started to put some French knots around there. And here's another little bird. These are just cut out of cloth and appliqued on, and then I've started doing some French knots around. And then this trim, I just ruffled it up and stitched that on. This was some seam binding, same thing. And here was a fussy cut image of a flower. In fact, there's several of those. So that's how that looks. And so I'm quite happy with that. I did go ahead and add some pale sort of like an avocado green behind the stained glass, because I don't know if you've ever noticed for example, in England, the stained glass is often that sort of a greenish color. I also just pulled out sort of a reference guide for you to look at. This is one I was working on a while back, and that's kind of as far as I've got on that. I ruffled up some green fabric. This was also painted the same situation, and added some more little trims down here, so a little bit of ticking. So that'll be completed. And then the last one of these that I pulled out, I've got dozens of them, by the way. This is when I would say I've pretty much finished this one. This one I did a while back, and I did a lot more ribbon embroidery on this one. This is ribbon work. This is ribbon work, and I didn't actually want to add a lot of ribbon work to those that I just showed you previously tonight. This is nighttime. I don't always like ribbon work. It just depends. It's a different look. It's actually quite dimensional, and it is quite soft. But sometimes it's a little hard on my hands because it's hard to get through the fabric. It takes a lot more tugging. I know sometimes people use an awl to poke a hole, which I don't like to do, and I just try and suffer and put up with it. But I have put some buttons on. I tried to pick buttons that had little flowers on them, and here's some other little glass buttons over this area. The little door has a doorknob, and so I would say that one, I would pretty much say that's done. And someone asked me what I do with all these. Well, I do all kinds of things. Sometimes I frame them. Most of them do get sold. Sometimes, like one like this could go on the front of a big, lovely canvas tote bag, maybe. Smaller ones, like this, sometimes I would make into a zippered pouch, makeup pouch, possibly. Or it could be the top of a box. So there's just a few ideas of what you could do with them. But generally, people like to figure out, I sell them pretty much the way they are, like this. And then I let people figure out what they want to do with them. They make nice gifts, they're lovely gifts, actually. And while I was working on this, I thought, I wonder if I should put some yo-yos or not. And I worked on some yo-yos at the same time, using some of the same fabrics that I had appliqued on. But then I decided, no, most of them far too big, of course. This is Lila in Hawaii. Thank you for watching. Good night now. Bye-bye.